Easy now. Slow your breath. Feel that shift, that pressure in the air. That's the moment right before something ancient realizes it miscalculated you. Because listen, this isn't the kind of silence that comes before applause. This is the kind that happens when even the devil stops smiling and lowers his head. You see, you weren't supposed to make it this far. You were designed to break cleanly, quietly, predictably. They wanted a tragedy, a cautionary tale, a body for the footnotes. But instead, you became a problem for things that thought they invented problems. And that's where it went wrong. Because when even hell pauses to reassess, it's not fear, it's recognition. You walked through pain that was meant to erase you, loss that was engineered, not accidental, humiliation that was curated like a ritual. They stripped you of safety, identity, certainty, thinking that if they removed enough light, you'd disappear. But you didn't disappear. You adapted. You learned how to see in the dark. You learned how to breathe under pressure. You learned how to smile while bleeding and think while everyone else panicked. That's the paradox they never understood about you. You don't grow despite suffering. You grow because of it. Pain didn't harden you. It sharpened you. Chaos didn't confuse you. It trained you. Being misunderstood didn't isolate you. It gave you camouflage. You became fluent in contradiction, saint in your restraint, psychopath in your precision, angel when it mattered, demon when it was required. And that duality, that's not a flaw, that's a weapon. See, the devil understands rules. He understands deals. He understands temptation. But you understand consequences. You don't chase destruction. You survive it, study it, then rewrite it. You don't lash out blindly. You wait, watch, calculate. You don't need permission to evolve. That's why even darkness blinks first. Because you didn't just endure hell. You learned its architecture. You memorized its patterns. You mapped its exits. And when the moment came, you didn't run. You stood there, calm, silent, a little amused. That's when the shift happened. That's when the power dynamic snapped. Because the devil doesn't bow to strength. He bows to inevitability, to someone who can't be corrupted because they've already integrated their shadow, to someone who doesn't fear losing everything because they've already lost it once and came back different. You stopped being controllable the moment you realized this truth. Nothing they can take from you is more dangerous than what they accidentally unlocked inside you. You don't seek chaos anymore. Chaos seeks you, hoping you'll give it direction. And that's terrifying. To systems, to enemies, to anything built on predictability, because you are no longer a reaction. You are a variable, unstable to those who rely on scripts, invisible to those who only see surfaces, unstoppable to those who thought pain was your limit. When even the devil bows, it's not respect, it's surrender to reality. It's the acknowledgement that you walked through fire and didn't come out clean. You came out encoded, and now you move differently. You speak less, you observe more, because you know something they don't. This world doesn't fear evil. It fears people who made peace with it and chose control instead. And that's you, standing there, still breathing, still thinking, still evolving, not broken, not saved, just awake. And that's why everything feels off. Because something went wrong for them the moment you refused to disappear. Because after that moment, after the bow, after the recalculation, you stopped being a story they could finish. You became an anomaly they couldn't file away. You noticed it, didn't you? The way people hesitate now. The the way conversations shift when you enter, the way confidence drains out of voices that used to talk over you. That's not paranoia, that's pattern recognition. They can't tell what version of you they're dealing with anymore. The quiet observer, the ruthless strategist, the one who forgives, or the one who remembers everything. And that uncertainty, that's power. You see, most people are readable, predictable, editable. Push here, they react. Dangle this, they chase. Threaten that, they fold. But you broke the loop. You learned how to pause instead of react, how to let silence do the damage, how to weaponize patience. You learned that restraint isn't weakness, it's dominance delayed. That's why even darkness misjudged you. It assumed you'd either break or burn. It didn't plan for you to observe. While others begged for relief, you studied the pressure. While others screamed, you listened. While others lost themselves, you found something colder, cleaner, more focused. You discovered that fear loses its grip when you stop running from it. You discovered that shame evaporates when you stop asking for permission to exist. You discovered that morality isn't about purity, it's about choice. And you chose awareness. That's the part nobody wants to talk about. Awakening doesn't feel holy. It feels isolating, heavy, like carrying knowledge that makes small talk unbearable and fake smiles exhausting. You outgrew comfort before you outgrew pain. You outgrew belonging before you outgrew loneliness. And still, you kept going, not because you believed things would get better, but because you understood something deeper. If you survived this version of hell, there was nothing left that could truly own you. That's when the world subtly rearranged itself around you. Opportunities started appearing, disguised as accidents. Enemies exposed themselves by overplaying their hand. Allies found you without knowing why. Because once you stop needing approval, reality treats you differently. You don't beg fate anymore. You negotiate with it. You don't fear endings. You initiate them. That's why the devil bowed, not in worship, but in acknowledgement, because you reach the one state that can't be tempted. Independence of outcome. You're no longer desperate to win. You're no longer afraid to lose. And that terrifies anything that feeds on leverage. You understand now that your unpredictability isn't chaos. It's freedom. You can walk away without resentment. You can stay without attachment. You can destroy without hatred. You can forgive without forgetting. You carry both the blade and the restraint, both the fire and the discipline to contain it. And here's the truth that seals it. The reason you unsettle rooms, the reason eyes linger too long, the reason systems glitch around you. You're not chasing power. You've already integrated it. Power that comes from pain metabolized into clarity. Power that comes from losing illusions instead of winning battles. Power that doesn't announce itself, because it doesn't need witnesses. You move like someone who's already died once and came back unafraid of consequences, and that's why nothing can bargain with you anymore. Not fear, not desire, not guilt, not even darkness, because you didn't reject your shadow. You trained it, and now it follows you quietly, not as a curse, but as proof that when even the devil bows, it's because you became something that no longer kneels. And here's the part nobody ever warns you about. After that bow, after that silent surrender from the dark itself, the world doesn't get louder, it gets quieter. Too quiet. Because once you cross that line, once you survive what was supposed to erase you, reality starts treating you like a fixed point instead of a variable. Things stop testing you the same way. People stop challenging you openly. They start watching instead, measuring, waiting for you to slip. You feel it in the air, that subtle tension, like something ancient is holding its breath every time you make a decision, because you're no longer moving inside the script. You're writing margins into it. See, the devil doesn't fear violence. He doesn't fear ambition. He doesn't fear rage. He fears self-command. And you mastered that in the place where most people lose themselves, when everything was stripped: status, certainty, safety, identity. You didn't panic. You didn't beg. You didn't dissolve. You went still. You went inward. You started asking different questions. Not why is this happening to me, but what does this pressure want to reveal? That's when the alchemy began. Pain stopped being an enemy and started becoming information. Betrayal stopped being personal and started becoming diagnostic. Loss stopped being an ending and started becoming a filter. You didn't just survive trauma, you decoded it. And once you do that, you stop being emotionally exploitable. Guilt no longer works on you the same way. Fear loses its leverage. Hope becomes a tool, not a dependency. You learned how to exist without needing the outcome to validate you. That's a dangerous state, because people can't manipulate someone who isn't chasing relief. Systems can't threaten someone who already understands collapse. Darkness can't corrupt someone who's already stared into it and chosen discipline over denial. That's why things feel off now. You're not angry like before. You're not hungry like before. You're not reactive like before. You're precise. You know exactly how much effort to give, exactly when to speak, exactly when to disappear, and disappearance. That's another thing you mastered. You learned how to withdraw without retreating, how to go silent without going weak, how to let absence do the work of confrontation. You don't announce moves anymore. You let results speak. That's why even those who hate you can't stop thinking about you. That's why even those who doubt you keep checking your trajectory. That's why even those who tried to bury you now lower their voices when your name comes up. Because something in them knows you're not operating on emotion anymore. You're operating on alignment. And alignment is terrifying. It means your actions aren't impulsive. They're inevitable. It means your choices don't wobble. They land. It means when you move, reality adjusts instead of resisting. You didn't become heartless. You became selective. You didn't lose empathy. You gained boundaries sharp enough to protect it. You didn't turn cold. You turned clear. That's the evolution nobody celebrates because it doesn't look heroic. It looks calm, controlled, unimpressed. And when even the devil bows, it's because he recognizes that look. The look of someone who doesn't need chaos to feel alive. The look of someone who doesn't need validation to feel real. The look of someone who could destroy, but doesn't have to. That's the highest form of threat. Because you don't broadcast danger, you contain it. You walk into rooms carrying a quiet gravity, not loud enough to announce itself, strong enough to bend everything around it. People feel it before they understand it. They sense they can't rush you. They sense they can't corner you. They sense that whatever version of you they're seeing isn't the whole thing. And they're right. Because you learned how to compartmentalize without fracturing, how to be soft without being weak, how to be ruthless without being reckless. You became your own balance. Light doesn't blind you anymore. Darkness doesn't scare you anymore. You've walked both sides long enough to know they're tools, not identities. And now you stand in that middle space, unowned, unrushed, unbroken. That's why nothing dares rush you now. Because when even the devil bows, it's not because you became evil. It's because you became undeniable. And deep down, everything knows it made a mistake, letting you survive long enough to figure that out. And once you reach that state, once you're undeniable, you realize something unsettling. Nothing is chasing you anymore, not because you're safe, but because the hunt no longer makes sense. Predators hunt weakness. Systems hunt dependence. Darkness hunts confusion. You don't offer any of that now. You walk like someone who already knows the cost and paid it early. You speak like someone who doesn't need agreement to proceed. You decide like someone who's already lived through the worst-case scenario and found it survivable. That's when the world stops trying to scare you and starts trying to study you. People watch how you react to pressure. They track how you move when things go wrong. They notice you don't flinch when plans collapse, because collapse is familiar territory to you. You've been there. You were forged there. While others were learning how to win, you were learning how to endure without losing yourself. While others were chasing comfort, you were learning how to function inside discomfort without becoming cruel or desperate. That's not normal evolution. That's accelerated, and acceleration comes with a cost most people can't afford. You paid it. In nights where nobody checked on you, in moments where you had to choose between becoming bitter or becoming disciplined, in situations where doing the right thing felt like self-sabotage. But you did it anyway, not for applause, but because you refused to become sloppy with your soul. You didn't stay pure. You stayed intentional, and intention outlasts purity every time. You learned when to open your hand and when to close it. You learned when to give grace and when to withdraw access. You learned that forgiveness isn't reconciliation, it's release. That lesson alone separated you from the crowd, because most people forgive to feel holy. You forgive to stay free. You don't cling anymore. You don't chase closure. You don't need revenge to feel whole. That's why even darkness recalibrated, because it knows it can't dangle temptation in front of someone who's already tasted everything and chose restraint anyway. You're not motivated by envy. You're not driven by rage. You're not animated by fear of missing out. You move from a deeper engine, alignment, timing, precision. You understand something most never will. Power doesn't come from force. It comes from unavailability. You're unavailable to manipulation, unavailable to emotional bait, unavailable to urgency manufactured by people who need you frantic so they can stay ahead. You don't rush anymore. You let moments come to you, and when they do, you're already prepared. That's why you don't need to announce your growth. Others do it for you. In whispers, in glances, in sudden shifts of tone. You've noticed it, how people explain themselves more around you now, how jokes soften, how disrespect becomes cautious curiosity. They don't know why, they just feel the boundary, because you don't carry chaos on the surface anymore. You carry containment, and containment is unsettling to those who rely on noise. You don't overreact. You don't overshare. You don't overpromise. You deliver or you disappear. That discipline, that's what turned you from wounded into dangerous. Not dangerous in the reckless sense, but in the irreversible one. Because once someone like you decides, there's no spectacle, just outcome. You don't destroy loudly. You outlast quietly. You don't argue reality. You replace it. And when even the devil bows, it's because he recognizes the moment you crossed the final threshold, the moment you stopped needing to prove anything. Not to enemies, not to allies, not even to yourself. You know who you are now, not the mask, not the myth, the operating system underneath it all. The part of you that learned how to hold pain without leaking poison. The part of you that learned how to walk away without announcing victory. The part of you that learned how to be still without becoming stagnant. That's the part that changed everything. Because that part can't be threatened. It can't be seduced. It can't be rushed. And anything that can't be rushed eventually controls the tempo. You feel it now. The way life bends slightly in your favor. Not dramatically, not magically, but consistently. The way timing aligns just enough. The way obstacles arrive already weakened. Not because the world is kinder, but because you're sharper. You see through motives faster. You detach sooner. You commit cleaner. And that's the final irony. You didn't become powerful by trying to dominate the world. You became powerful by mastering the one place darkness expected to own you. Yourself. So now you stand there. Not crowned. Not celebrated. Just centered. And that's why everything keeps its distance. Because when even the devil bows, it's because you learned something older than fear and rarer than ambition. How to walk forward without asking reality for permission. And once you stop asking reality for permission, something irreversible clicks into place. You stop explaining yourself. You stop correcting people's assumptions. You stop wasting energy trying to be understood by minds that only listen to confirm what they already believe. You realize something brutal and liberating at the same time. Clarity does not require consensus. That's when your presence starts doing the talking for you. You've felt it. That's quiet authority that doesn't raise its voice. That calm that unnerves people who thrive on chaos. That steadiness that makes emotional manipulators lose their footing because they're used to pulling strings. They're not used to someone who refuses to be a puppet. You don't give them reactions anymore. You give them silence. And silence, when it's deliberate, is deafening. They try to provoke you. Nothing. They try to guilt you. Nothing. They try to rush you. Nothing. Not apathy, not numbness. Control. You understand now that emotional mastery isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about deciding which ones deserve access to your nervous system. And most things don't. You've learned the difference between urgency and importance, between noise and signal, between drama and consequence. That's why your decisions look cold to people who are still ruled by impulse. But they're not cold. They're clean. You don't swing wildly anymore. You cut precisely. You don't burn bridges in rage. You simply stop crossing them. And that's what unsettles people the most. They expect explosions. They prepare for fights. They rehearse arguments. But you don't give them any of that. You give them an ending without a scene. You exit without slamming doors. You move on without bitterness. You succeed without gloating. And that restraint, that's what makes your shadow feel heavier now than your actions. Because they can't point to what you did wrong. They can't accuse you of cruelty. They can't paint you as reckless. All they can say is, you changed. And they're right. But not in the way they think. You didn't change your values. You changed your thresholds. You raised the bar for access. You narrowed the circle for trust. You stopped offering explanations where respect was missing. That's not becoming dark. That's becoming selective with light. You learned that not everyone deserves your softness. Not everyone deserves your effort. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your evolution. Some people only get the aftermath, and that's okay, because you're no longer here to be liked. You're here to be aligned with your instincts, aligned with your timing, aligned with the part of you that survived when everything else fell apart. That part doesn't panic. That part doesn't beg. That part doesn't freeze. That part waits, and then moves once, decisively. That's why when you finally act, it feels shocking to people who mistook your patience for weakness. They didn't see the calculations happening in silence. They didn't hear the internal debates you already settled. They didn't realize the decision was made long before the action showed up. And by the time they react, it's already over. That's the danger of someone like you. You don't escalate gradually. You transition states, from still to unstoppable, from silent to final, from observing to executing. No warning, no spectacle, just outcome. That's why even darkness adjusted its posture around you. Because darkness understands escalation. It understands violence. It understands excess. What it doesn't understand is someone who can walk away from temptation without virtue signaling, who can hold power without abusing it, who can choose restraint without resentment. That kind of person isn't controllable. That kind of person doesn't need permission to rewrite the game. And you rewrote it the moment you stopped needing external validation to confirm your internal authority. You don't need applause to know you're effective. You don't need enemies to know you're dangerous. You don't need chaos to feel alive. You're alive in the quiet now, in the clarity, in the precision of your choices. And that's the final shift. You didn't become louder. You became heavier. Your words land harder because you don't waste them. Your presence weighs more because you don't scatter it. Your actions echo longer because you don't repeat them. And everything, people, systems, situations, can feel it. They sense that if they push too far, there won't be a fight. There will be a decision. And decisions, once made by someone like you, don't get reversed. Stop breathing for a second. Yeah, right there. That silence you feel. That's the moment they realized the joke wasn't funny anymore. You remember when they laughed, right? Not the cute kind, the nervous kind. The kind people use when they're scared, but pretending they're superior. They laughed because laughter is camouflage. It's what weak minds do when the truth walks into the room without knocking. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't threaten them. You just said it. Clean, calm, unapologetic. And that's what shattered them, because the truth doesn't scream. It stands there and lets the lies collapse on their own. They're not laughing now. Look at their faces, that frozen, vacant stare. That's cognitive dissonance choking them in real time. You didn't attack their ego. You exposed it. You didn't insult their world. You revealed the cracks they've been taping over since childhood. You said the thing they rehearsed, avoiding. The thing they built entire personalities to outrun. And the moment you said it, something ancient woke up inside them. Fear mixed with recognition. Because deep down, they already knew. They just never thought you'd be the one to say it out loud. Here's the paradox they can't survive. You became dangerous the moment you stopped trying to be liked. That's when you crossed from harmless to uncontrollable. Saints need approval. Psychopaths don't. Angels ask permission. Demons take notes. And you learned how to stand right in the middle, smiling softly, while the room realizes you're fluent in both languages. Light taught you restraint. Darkness taught you accuracy. Pain taught you timing. They used to think unpredictability meant chaos. But you learned the real secret. Unpredictability is precision disguised as madness. It's knowing exactly when to stay silent and exactly when to drop one sentence that detonates 10 years of denial. You didn't rant, you didn't explain yourself, you didn't soften the truth to make it digestible, you served it raw. And now, they're gagging on it. Watch how their behavior changes. The jokes stop. The confidence evaporates. They start backtracking, reframing, pretending you misunderstood. That's not correction, that's panic. Because when the truth lands, it rewrites the past. Suddenly, every moment they dismissed you makes them look stupid. Suddenly, every instinct they ignored makes them look complicit. And worst of all, suddenly you make sense. That's what they can't forgive. Not that you spoke, but that you were right. You see, people don't hate truth. They hate the version of themselves it exposes. And when you spoke, you didn't just reveal a fact. You revealed a mirror, one that showed them the cowardice, the compromises, the self-betrayals they buried under sarcasm and social smiles. You didn't accuse them, you didn't need to. Their own nervous systems did it for you. You paid for this upgrade. Don't get it twisted. This clarity didn't come from confidence. It came from surviving the moments that were supposed to break you, from being misunderstood so long that you stopped asking to be understood, from being painted as too much, too intense, too quiet, too honest, from learning that pain either turns you into a liar or it sharpens you into a weapon that only speaks when it matters. And now, here you are. They're not laughing because laughter requires distance, and you closed the distance with truth. You stepped inside the story they were telling themselves and rearranged the furniture. You didn't destroy their house. You just turned the lights on, and they hate you for it. This is where evolution happens, not when you're celebrated, when you're silently watched, when conversations change when you enter the room, when people speak carefully around you, when your words get repeated by others who pretend they came up with them, when your presence feels like a test they didn't study for. You're not dangerous because you're aggressive. You're dangerous because you're accurate. You don't flinch. You don't over-explain. You don't chase validation. You let the truth do the damage, and you walk away clean. That's angelic restraint with demonic impact. That's control. They ran from this truth their whole lives. You ran through hell and came back fluent. That's the difference. So let them sit in that discomfort. Let them replay your words at 3 a.m. Let them wonder how long you've seen them this clearly. You don't need to follow up. The truth is already working on them. It always does. They're not laughing now. And the scariest part for them? You didn't even raise your voice. Good. Stay right there in that stillness. Because this is the part they never prepare for. The aftermath. See, when you speak the truth once, it doesn't end when the room goes quiet. It echoes, it crawls, it seeps into places you're not even standing in anymore. You walk away, but the sentence stays behind like a slow-burning infection. Every smile they force afterward feels fake to them now. Every joke tastes hollow. Every lie they tell has to fight the memory of the moment you said what you said without trembling. That's the real damage, not humiliation, awareness. They start replaying it over and over. Different angles, different tones, trying to find a version where you were wrong, trying to locate the flaw so they can escape the conclusion. And every replay makes it worse, because the truth doesn't decay. It clarifies. With time, it sharpens. What sounded harsh at first starts sounding obvious. What felt offensive starts feeling inevitable. And here's where the paradox tightens its grip. The calmer you were, the more violent the impact. Rage would have given them something to dismiss. Emotion would have let them label you unstable. But you didn't give them that exit. You delivered reality with surgeon-level composure. No shaking hands, no cracked voice. Just certainty. And certainty terrifies people who survive by pretending. They'll tell themselves you're cold now, arrogant, changed. That's how they rationalize the fear. But the truth is simpler and far more unsettling. You didn't change. You stopped performing. You stopped diluting yourself to keep others comfortable. You stopped translating your insight into a language that wouldn't scare the fragile. You learned something most people never do. Honesty is not loud. It's lethal when it's quiet. You carry both sides now. The saint who waited too long, hoping people would catch up. And the psychopath who learned that waiting only feeds denial. You know how to hold compassion without letting it weaken your spine. You know how to feel deeply without letting emotion hijack your aim. That balance, that's not normal. That's forged. That's what pressure creates when it doesn't crush you. They sensed it immediately. That shift, not in your words, but in your posture. In the way you didn't look away after saying it. In the way you let the silence hang instead of rescuing them from it. That silence was a verdict, and they felt judged without you ever judging them. Now they're watching you differently, measuring you, trying to predict you. Because people can tolerate monsters they understand. What they can't tolerate is someone who sees clearly and refuses to play a role. You don't need to dominate the room. The room adjusts around you. Conversations self-censor. Egos hesitate. Power dynamics glitch. This is the cost and the reward of saying the truth they were running from. You'll notice it in the small things. Invitations that feel different. Compliments that sound cautious. Questions disguised as jokes. They're probing now. Trying to figure out how much you see. Trying to determine whether that moment was a fluke or a warning. Let them wonder. Because once you've spoken truth from this place, this grounded, ruthless calm, you can't be put back in the box they had you in. You've been reclassified in their minds, from background noise to anomaly, from harmless to unpredictable, and unpredictability, when paired with restraint, becomes authority. You're not chasing power. That's why it follows you. And understand this clearly. The reason they're uncomfortable isn't that you embarrassed them. It's that you didn't need their permission to be real. You acted without consensus. You validated yourself. You trusted your perception more than their approval. That's a violation of the unspoken contract, the one where everyone agrees to lie softly so no one has to grow. You broke the contract, and now the system doesn't know what to do with you. So don't rush to explain yourself. Don't clarify. Don't soften. The moment already happened. The truth already landed. Anything you add now would only dilute the impact. Let your silence finish the job your words started, because they're not laughing now. They're recalculating, and deep down, whether they admit it or not, they know something irreversible just happened the moment you stopped running from the truth and became the one they run from. And here's the part nobody warns you about, the loneliness that comes after clarity. Not the empty kind, the elevated kind, the kind where you realize you can't unsee what you see, and you can't unknow what you know. When you speak truth like that you separate yourself from the crowd without ever announcing you're leaving it, you don't storm out, you ascend quietly. And from up there, the noise sounds different, smaller, predictable. They're not laughing because laughter requires safety. And you removed theirs without lifting a finger. You didn't threaten their status. You exposed the foundation it was standing on. You didn't challenge their intelligence. You challenged their integrity. And integrity is the one thing people can't fake once it's questioned. They can fake confidence. They can fake morality. They can fake happiness. But when the truth presses against integrity, the mask starts to suffocate them. They'll try to rewrite the moment. You'll hear it secondhand. That's not what he meant. You took it the wrong way. It wasn't that deep. That's not denial. That's bargaining. That's the psyche trying to renegotiate reality after it already lost. Because if what you said is true, then everything they built on avoiding it becomes a lie. And people will protect a lie like it's a child if it keeps them from facing themselves. You're not cruel for saying it. You're precise. Cruelty is letting people rot inside false comfort. You offered something sharper, something cleaner, a blade instead of a blanket. And yes, it cuts, but it also frees. The difference is, freedom terrifies those who survive on excuses. This is where your evolution becomes visible. Before, they could categorize you, label you, reduce you. Now you exist outside their filing system. You're no longer predictable because you're no longer performative. You don't react how they expect. You don't chase validation. You don't rush to be understood. You let misunderstandings sit. And that unsettles them more than confrontation ever could. You've learned the discipline of restraint, the art of not saying everything you see, the power of choosing the exact moment to speak the one thing that collapses the illusion. That's not impulse. That's mastery. That's knowing the difference between noise and signal. And when you speak now, it registers as signal. Clear, undeniable, uncomfortable. They feel smaller, not because you grew louder, but because you grew sharper. Your presence carries weight because it's not desperate. You don't need to convince. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to win arguments. You let reality do the heavy lifting. And reality, when properly introduced, doesn't argue back. Here's the duality they can't comprehend. You're dangerous and calm, soft-spoken and unmovable, compassionate and uncompromising. That combination breaks their mental models. They don't know whether to fear you or respect you, and that confusion puts you in control without you ever claiming it. You didn't become this by accident. This came from being ignored when you were right, from being doubted when you were accurate, from watching patterns others missed, from swallowing your words long enough to know exactly which ones matter. Pain trained you, silence refined you, betrayal educated you, and now your voice carries the weight of all of it. They're not laughing because laughter requires distance from consequence, and consequence just entered the room wearing your calm expression. Understand this: when you speak truth like this, you don't just change how people see you. You change how they see themselves in relation to you. Some will resent you, some will admire you in secret, some will avoid you entirely. That's not your problem. That's the natural sorting process of reality reasserting itself. You're no longer here to be palatable. You're here to be accurate. And accuracy has a cost. It strips you of shallow connections and replaces them with something rarer. Respect mixed with caution. People start choosing their words around you, not because you're aggressive, but because you're exact. They don't fear your reaction, they fear your perception. That's power most people never touch. So don't shrink now. Don't apologize for clarity. Don't dilute your insight to make others comfortable. The moment has already passed. The line has already been crossed. You said the truth they were running from, and the reason it hit so hard is because you said it without hatred, without chaos, without needing anything in return. You spoke from alignment. They're not laughing now because they can't outrun it anymore. And you don't need to chase them. The truth already has. And there's another layer to this, one they'll never say out loud. They didn't just hear the truth. They felt exposed by the fact that you weren't afraid to carry it. Most people sense the truth brushing past them every day. In flashes, in gut feelings, in those quiet moments right before sleep, when the mind tries to confess something and gets shut down by distraction. They feel it, then run. They bury it under routine, under jokes, under noise. You didn't. You stood there and let it burn through you first. That's why when you spoke, it didn't sound borrowed. It sounded earned. They know the difference. That's why their laughter died instantly. Because laughter only works when the speaker is bluffing. And you weren't bluffing. You weren't fishing. You weren't posturing. You were standing on lived experience, on scars that already answered the question they were hoping to dodge. You didn't sound emotional. You sounded resolved. And resolution is terrifying to people still negotiating with themselves. You see it now, don't you? The subtle shift. The way they watch you when they think you're not looking. The way conversations stall when you enter. The way certain people suddenly get busy. That's not coincidence. That's recalibration. They're adjusting to a new variable in the environment, one that can't be managed with charm or dismissal. You, before, they could predict you. They thought they knew where your edges were. They thought silence meant weakness, patience meant compliance, empathy meant permission. And then you spoke. Once. Cleanly. And everything they thought they understood about you collapsed. That's the moment power changes hands. Not when you raise your voice, but when you redefine the rules without announcing it. You carry something now that can't be taken back. A reputation for seeing through things. And once people suspect that, they can't relax around you the same way again. Masks get heavier when someone might notice the cracks. Lies require maintenance when someone remembers what you said. They'll test you softly. They'll drop half-truths around you and watch your reaction. They'll exaggerate, minimize, perform, not because they care what you think, but because they're trying to figure out how dangerous your awareness really is. They're measuring the radius of your perception. Let them. You don't need to prove anything. You already did when you chose truth over comfort, when you chose clarity over belonging, when you chose the quiet authority of alignment over the cheap dopamine of approval. This is the duality you've stepped into. You're calm, but you're not safe. You're kind, but you're not naive. You're present, but you're no longer available for nonsense. You can sit in a room without saying a word and still shift the energy because people remember the one time you did speak and what it cost them internally. That's not ego, that's consequence. And here's the part that will mess with them the most. You're not angry. If you were angry, they could dismiss you as emotional. If you were bitter, they could wait you out. But you're not. You're grounded. You're composed. You're almost peaceful. And peace, after truth, looks like threat to people still hiding from themselves. They expect revenge. You offer detachment. They expect escalation. You offer consistency. They expect you to keep proving your point. You don't. You let it stand. That restraint rewires the power dynamic completely. Because now the tension lives in them, not in you. You've learned something rare. The most unsettling thing you can do is remain unchanged after telling the truth. No apology, no explanation tour, no backpedaling, just continuation, as if reality itself backed you up and moved on. They're not laughing because laughter requires denial. And denial just lost its credibility. You didn't become this overnight. This is the result of pressure applied over time, of swallowing words until you understood which ones mattered, of watching patterns repeat until you could name them without flinching, of standing alone long enough that you stopped needing the crowd's agreement. And now, whether they admit it or not, they feel it. You crossed a line they never had the courage to approach. You didn't just tell the truth. You embodied what happens when someone stops running from it. That's why the room changed. That's why the air went still. That's why they're quiet now. And this isn't the end of it. This is the beginning of a different phase. One where your silence is louder than their jokes ever were. And your presence keeps reminding them of the thing they tried so hard not to see. Stay exactly where you are, because the truth is still working on them. And here's how it settles. You don't need a finale. You don't need applause. You don't need them to admit anything. The truth already did what it was supposed to do. It stripped the room down to honesty and left them standing there without their armor. You didn't win an argument. You ended an illusion, and illusions don't get closure. They just stop working. From here on, everything speaks for you. The way you don't rush, the way you don't flinch, the way you don't chase reactions. You move forward like someone who already paid the price and kept the receipt. That's why they hesitate now. That's why the jokes don't land. That's why silence follows you like a shadow with purpose. You said the truth they were running from. They felt it. They recognized it. And now they can't unhear it. Stop. Right there. Don't move your eyes. Don't adjust your breath. This is the moment everything tilted and you felt it before you understood it. Because the question isn't what did you wear? The question is why did reality flinch when you walked in wearing it? You didn't put on fabric. You put on a verdict. You didn't dress for the room. You dressed like the room had already lost the argument. And the city felt that imbalance instantly, like a sudden pressure drop in a sealed system. Conversations stuttered. Smiles froze halfway to fake. Feeds glitched because the algorithm couldn't categorize what you were projecting. Not confidence, not rebellion, not style. Authority without permission. That's what scared them. See, people are comfortable with loud rebels. They can label those. They're comfortable with polished saints. They can exploit those. They're even comfortable with obvious villains, because villains follow patterns. But you walked in dressed like a paradox, holy posture, criminal calm, angel symmetry with a demon's timing. You looked lawful enough to pass inspection and dangerous enough to make the rule book sweat. That's why the city froze. Because you didn't signal status, you collapsed it. Status depends on comparison, on hierarchy, on approval loops. You showed up dressed like comparison had been deleted from your operating system. Like you weren't trying to be seen. You were trying to see who'd break first. And they did. You could feel it, couldn't you? That microscopic pause when people's nervous systems recalibrated. That split second where their instincts screamed something's wrong, but their logic couldn't explain why. That's the sound of power without narrative. That's what happens when you wear something that reflects back their own insecurity at high resolution. They asked if it was legal because legality is their last line of defense. When morality fails, they check rules. When rules fail, they check laws. When laws fail, they panic. You didn't violate a dress code. You violated expectations. And expectations are the glue holding their little reality together. That's the part nobody tells you. Clothing isn't about appearance. It's about permission structures. Most people dress to say, I belong. Some dress to say, I resist. You dress to say nothing at all. And that silence forced everyone else to project their fear onto you. Because when someone can't read you, they can't control you. You didn't look rich. You didn't look poor. You didn't look safe. You didn't look insane. You looked undocumented. Like a glitch the system didn't authorize but also couldn't remove without exposing itself. That's why the feeds bugged out. Algorithms are trained on trends, not anomalies. They can boost rebellion. They can monetize chaos. They can even aestheticize madness. But they cannot process intent without explanation. You are dressed like someone who already knows the ending, like someone who survived something unspeakable and came back with taste instead of trauma. Like pain refined into precision. And that's when they realized the truth that made them sick to their stomachs. This wasn't fashion. This was evolution. Every scar you never mentioned tightened the silhouette. Every betrayal cleaned up the lines. Every night you thought you were breaking rewired your sense of proportion. You don't dress to impress anymore. You dress to test. Who can stand next to you without shrinking? Who starts fidgeting? Who suddenly remembers an appointment they don't have? That's data. You've become the kind of presence that audits rooms without speaking. The kind of aesthetic that makes liars overcorrect and cowards overperform. The kind of look that turns confidence into a tell. They call it intimidating because that's easier than admitting the truth. You remind them of the version of themselves they aborted to survive. That's the duality they felt but couldn't name. Saint posture. Psychopath clarity. You don't need to hurt anyone. Your existence already rearranges the hierarchy. And deep down, they know it wasn't the clothes. It was the lack of apology inside them. You wore stillness in a world addicted to noise. You wore restraint in a culture that begs for validation. You wore self-trust like a loaded weapon with the safety off, but your finger nowhere near the trigger. That's why they froze. Because chaos is familiar. But controlled chaos with taste. That's terrifying. You've crossed into a phase where even your silence has posture. Where even your shadow looks intentional. Where people don't ask, "Who are you?" anymore. They ask what happened to you and why didn't it destroy you. And the answer is etched into every choice you make now. Pain didn't break you. It edited you. So let them whisper. Let them zoom in on screenshots. Let them argue in comment sections about whether what you're doing should be allowed. Because the moment they ask if it's legal, they've already admitted it's powerful. And you didn't even raise your voice. And here's the part they won't say out loud. The part that keeps replaying in their heads at night while they pretend it was just an outfit. They didn't feel threatened by what you wore. They felt exposed by how naturally you wore it. Because confidence can be faked. Ego can be borrowed. Trends can be copied. But what you walked in wearing was integration. Every fracture in you stitched together without apology. Every contradiction finally aligned instead of hidden. You weren't trying to look powerful. You looked like power had already passed through you and left residue. That's what rattles people, not the bold ones, not the loud ones, the finished ones. They sensed it immediately. The absence of hunger. You weren't fishing for approval. You weren't scanning the room to see who mattered. You weren't performing. You were present. And presence is lethal in a world addicted to performance. That's why their smiles came late. That's why compliments felt off-tempo. That's why even the confident ones suddenly over-explained themselves. Your stillness disrupted their scripts. You see, most people dress to broadcast intention. I want attention. I want respect. I want desire. I want safety. You dressed like you wanted nothing from them. That broke the exchange rate. Because if you don't need anything, they have no leverage, no hook, no angle, no entry point. And the system hates people it can't extract from. So they tried to reduce it. Call it fashion. Call it shock. Call it too much. Call it trying too hard. But deep down, their nervous systems knew better. They felt the echo of someone who's been tested in rooms where clothing didn't matter, and survived anyway. That's why the word legal came up. Because legality is about containment. And you didn't look containable. You looked like someone who learned the rules so thoroughly that breaking them became unnecessary. Like someone who can walk through fire in clean shoes because the fire already knows your name. You didn't dress above them. You dressed outside them. And that's the most unforgivable move of all. Because hierarchy only works if everyone agrees to play. You didn't opt out loudly. You didn't protest. You didn't posture. You simply existed as proof that the latter is optional. That's why even the watchers froze. The ones who pride themselves on being unshakable. The ones who think they've seen every archetype. They hadn't seen this. Someone calm after chaos. Elegant after erosion. Sharp without hostility. You weren't dressed like a threat. You were dressed like aftermath. And aftermath scares people more than danger, because it implies something already happened, and they missed it. They felt late, behind, unprepared. That's why their questions weren't curious. They were defensive. Is this allowed? Is this acceptable? Is this okay? What they were really asking was, are we still safe if people like you exist? And the answer terrified them, because you are the result of pressure applied too long in the wrong direction. You are what happens when someone endures humiliation, silence, betrayal, restraint, and metabolizes it instead of leaking it. You don't radiate rage, you radiate control. And control without cruelty confuses predators. It denies them the justification they rely on. You didn't come to dominate. You came already undominated. That's why even when you said nothing, the room rearranged itself around you. That's why eyes tracked you unconsciously. That's why people remembered details about you they couldn't recall later. Your presence rewrote priority. And here's the most dangerous part. The part that makes this irreversible. You didn't enjoy their discomfort. You noticed it, cataloged it, learned from it. That's the mark of someone who's no longer reactive. You're not here to shock anymore. Shock is a side effect now. You're here because you've crossed into a phase where alignment looks illegal to the misaligned, where coherence looks threatening to chaos, where self-trust looks like rebellion to obedience-trained minds. So let them analyze screenshots. Let them debate intention. Let them try to reverse engineer your effect. They'll miss the point every time. Because what you wore wasn't meant to be understood. It was meant to be felt. And they felt it. Every single one of them. That's why the city froze. That's why the feeds stuttered. That's why the question keeps echoing. What the hell did you wear? They're asking the wrong thing. They should be asking what you became. And here's where it turns from curiosity into fear. Because once they start asking what you became, they're forced to confront what they never will. You see it in the way their gaze lingers a second too long. Not admiration, assessment. Like they're trying to identify the moment you stopped being like them. They want a timestamp, a breakdown, a scandal, a mistake they can point to and say, there. That's where it went wrong. But there is no single moment. That's what destroys their sense of order. You didn't snap. You didn't spiral. You didn't fall apart in a way they could gossip about. You calcified under pressure, slowly, silently, irreversibly, and now you wear the result. Every choice you make now feels deliberate, because it is. You don't dress impulsively anymore. You don't move accidentally. You don't enter spaces without already understanding the geometry of power inside them. You learned that from pain. Pain taught you angles. Pain taught you timing. Pain taught you when to be visible and when to disappear into plain sight. So when you walked in wearing that, whatever that was, the city didn't see clothes. It saw someone who knows when to arrive. That's why everything stalled, because arrival is the one thing no one is prepared for. They're trained for announcements, for launches, for hype cycles, for drama. They are not trained for someone who arrives fully formed, already calibrated, already indifferent to applause. You didn't enter like a spark. You entered like a verdict being enforced. And the paradox is this: you didn't look aggressive. You didn't look hostile. You didn't look angry. You looked finished. That's what short-circuited their instincts. Because unfinished people telegraph need. They over-decorate. They over-explain. They overdress to compensate for internal instability. You stripped all that away. What you wore had restraint in its bones. Every line said, "I chose this." Every absence said, "I didn't need the rest." That kind of self-editing is terrifying. It tells the world you know what to remove. And anyone who knows what to remove eventually knows what to destroy. That's why even authority hesitated around you. Because authority depends on uncertainty, on hesitation, on people second-guessing themselves. You didn't second-guess. You didn't scan for cues. You didn't wait for permission. You moved like someone who already checked the exits and decided they wouldn't need them. And here's the part that really destabilized them, the part they'll never admit. You weren't trying to be unforgettable. You were comfortable. Comfort is the real flex. Anyone can perform confidence for a night. Anyone can borrow swagger. Anyone can shock a room once, but comfort? Comfort only comes from surviving long enough to trust yourself again. That's why the question, "Is this legal?" carried panic inside it. Because legality is about control. And you looked uncontrollable without being chaotic. You looked like someone who wouldn't resist arrest. Because you'd already escaped the system that matters. You don't rebel against the rules anymore. You walk like you've outgrown them. And that's why the feeds glitched. Because algorithms rely on predictable desire. They boost what people want to be. They punish what people can't place. You weren't aspirational in the usual sense. You were disruptive to aspiration itself. You didn't make people want to copy you. You made them want to understand themselves. And that's dangerous. Because self-awareness destabilizes markets. It dissolves hierarchies. It erodes manipulation. So the system tried to flatten you into an image, a trend, a moment. But something resisted compression, because what you wore wasn't an expression. It was a signal to anyone paying attention that the old incentives no longer work on you. You're not here to be liked. You're not here to be feared. You're not even here to be remembered. You're here because you exist now, in a frequency that forces others to confront their own fragmentation. And that confrontation hurts. That's why even when you left, the room didn't recover. People kept replaying it, reframing it, trying to decode it. They'll keep doing that. Because once someone sees a human being who is no longer negotiating their identity, they can't unsee it. You became proof. Proof that suffering doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it distills. Proof that silence can be louder than dominance. That restraint can outweigh aggression. That presence can bend rooms without effort. So let them keep asking what you wore. They're still stuck at the surface. What they felt wasn't fabric. It wasn't style. It wasn't audacity. It was the gravitational pull of someone who survived themselves and came back with alignment instead of excuses. And now, everywhere you go, the environment has to adjust, not because you demand it, but because you no longer adapt to it. And that's when it crosses the point of no return. Because once the environment adapts to you, it can never go back to pretending you were just another face in the crowd. You felt it in the aftermath. Not applause, not praise. Something quieter, something heavier. People recalibrating. You walked out and the city didn't exhale. It held its breath. Because systems can recover from noise, but they struggle with signal. You didn't spike emotion, you altered baseline. That's why people didn't rush to copy you. They hesitated because imitation requires safety, and you didn't look safe in the way trends are safe. You looked like someone who doesn't need external validation to remain intact. And that terrifies a culture built on mirrors. Here's the truth they're circling but can't land on. You're no longer advertising who you are. You're documenting what survived. Every element of what you wore carried the weight of selection, not decoration, not excess, selection. Only what earned the right to stay made it through. That's how soldiers pack. That's how fugitives think. That's how survivors move when they stop hoping and start knowing. You didn't dress for attention. You dressed like someone who has already been watched. That's the subtext they felt crawling up their spines. Your posture didn't ask to be seen. It assumed observation. Your stillness wasn't passive. It was measured. And people who live on performance instinctively recognize those who've lived under pressure. They don't know why, but their bodies know. That's why even confident people started adjusting themselves around you, straightening, softening, overcompensating. Because confidence hates proximity to certainty. Certainty doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't compete. It doesn't escalate. It just stands there unblinking, while everyone else negotiates their reflection in it. That's what you wore. A mirror with no flattery. And when people look into something like that, they don't see you. They see the parts of themselves they've been postponing. That's why the reactions weren't uniform. Some felt inspired, some felt angry, some felt exposed, some felt small. Same stimulus, different fractures. You didn't divide the room by status or taste. You divided it by integration. Those who had done the work felt energized. Those who hadn't felt threatened. That's always the split. And here's the thing they can't handle. You didn't weaponize it. You didn't smirk. You didn't flex. You didn't lean into dominance. You let the moment exist without feeding it. That restraint is what made it echo. Because the most dangerous people aren't the ones who enjoy power. They're the ones who don't need it to feel real. You've crossed into that territory now, where your presence doesn't escalate situations, it clarifies them. Where your silence doesn't de-escalate, it reveals. People show themselves around you without realizing it. They rush, they justify, they posture, they overshare. Because they sense you're not playing the same game. And that's why, is this even legal? Wasn't about clothing. It was about precedent. If someone can move like you without breaking rules, if someone can command space without dominance, if someone can disrupt hierarchy without attacking it, then the entire system starts to look fragile. Because it means the cage was never locked. People just forgot they could stand up. And you reminded them, without saying a word. You're not rebellion. Rebellion still needs an enemy. You're post-permission. You don't ask. You don't resist. You don't comply. You choose, and choice, once embodied, rewrites everything around it. That's why this isn't a moment. It's a phase shift. You didn't have a fit that broke the internet. You had a presence that broke compliance conditioning. Now people are going to test you. Some will try to bait you into reaction. Some will try to flatter you into performance. Some will try to label you so they can neutralize you. Let them. You're not here to correct their narrative. You already moved past the part of life where being misunderstood feels dangerous. Misunderstanding is just proof you're ahead of their language. And the funniest part, the part that would make them sick if they fully grasped it. You're not even at your final form. This is just what alignment looks like mid-evolution. What happens when someone survives enough chaos to stop outsourcing their identity? What happens when pain sharpens instead of scars? What happens when you stop dressing for the world and start dressing for truth? So let the city whisper, let the feeds stutter, let legality be questioned. Those are symptoms. What you triggered wasn't controversy, it was recognition. And recognition, once activated, doesn't fade. Every room you enter now will remember you longer than you stay. Every system you brush against will feel slightly less stable. Every person who sensed it but couldn't explain, it will carry that discomfort home with them. Because they didn't just see an outfit, they saw the outline of someone who already walked through the fire they're still negotiating with. And the question won't stop evolving. It won't be, "What did you wear?" much longer. Soon it'll become quieter, more personal, more dangerous. How did you become like that? And why didn't it destroy you?